A young boy ran through a factory at high speed when, suddenly, a truck appeared from the left. To avoid hitting him, the driver slammed on the brakes. However, in the process, two trucks collided, spilling highly radioactive chemicals. The liquid splashed onto the boy's eyes, leaving him permanently blind. From that moment on, he would live in darkness forever. For a 12-year-old, this was a devastating blow. But as he lay in the hospital, something extraordinary happened. His other senses became overwhelmingly sharp. The subtle sounds around him grew louder, almost unbearable, making him feel like his head was filled with hundreds of speakers playing different tunes at once. Although he had lost his sight, his hearing had heightened to extraordinary levels, allowing him to detect sounds from hundreds of meters away. This new ability filled young Matt with fear as he struggled to control the sensory overload. When his father visited him in the hospital, Matt turned away, pretending to be indifferent. He didn't want his father to pity him. After all, his father was the only family he had left. But as a father, he couldn't remain unaffected. His heart was heavy with guilt, knowing that Matt had been at the factory looking for him when the accident occurred. Determined to secure his son's future, Matt's father, Jack Murdock, returned to his old profession, boxing. Once a skilled fighter, Jack was now past his prime. But for his son's sake, he was willing to fight again, no matter the cost. Meanwhile, Matt had to adapt to his new life, learning to read using his hands instead of his eyes. Frustration often got the best of him. But one day, he made a fascinating discovery. When he threw a book at punching bag, he realized that he could see the vibrations in his mind, similar to how radar detects objects through electromagnetic waves. This revelation filled him with newfound hope. Eager to test his abilities, Matt put on a pair of boxing gloves and began training relentlessly. Every day, while his father was out fighting in the ring, Matt honed his own skills at home. The chemicals in his system had altered his genes, enhancing not just his hearing, but also his sense of touch, strength, and agility beyond human limits. Months of intense training allowed Matt to master his abilities. Though he couldn't see, the world around him became clear through sound. One day, he encountered a group of bullies, ones who had tormented him when he still had his sight. Now blind, he expected at least some sympathy, but instead, they laughed and mocked him. Matt decided it was time to teach them a lesson. Using his enhanced skills, he quickly overpowered them, making it clear that being blind didn't mean being weak. Defeating them boosted his confidence, but more than that, it proved that he was far from helpless. That evening, he went to his father's boxing match to cheer him on. Jack's opponent was a younger, stronger fighter, and the match seemed hopeless from the start. The rival boxer launched a flurry of powerful punches, pushing Jack into a defensive stance. Seated nearby, a crime boss, who had invested heavily in Jack's fights, ordered him to throw the match. Jack had been winning fights under the boss's influence for weeks, but now he was expected to lose. However, Jack refused. As a professional fighter, he couldn't disgrace himself, especially not in front of his son. He wanted Matt to see that perseverance and integrity mattered more than winning at any cost. Though injured, Jack pushed himself back to his feet. He unleashed 3 powerful punches to his opponent's abdomen, knocking him out cold. The unexpected victory sent the crowd into a frenzy, but also enraged the crime boss. Jack had to fight him, and no one got away with that. After changing out his boxing gear, Jack left the venue, unaware that a group of enforcers was waiting for him. Meanwhile, Matt waited outside, eager to celebrate his father's victory. At his young age, he couldn't yet understand the darkness that lurked in men's hearts. As Jack stepped into the street, Matt's super-sensitive ears picked up strange noises, footsteps, whispers, a sudden shuffle. Then, in a heartbreaking moment, he heard a gunshot. The sound of his father's body hitting the ground shattered his world. He rushed toward the sound, but was too late. His father lay motionless, a victim of the very corruption he had tried to escape. Matt, though devastated, vowed that night to never be powerless again. From then on, he trained harder than ever. He pushed his body to its limits, refining his abilities and sharpening his combat skills. Over time, the boy who had once been afraid of the sounds overwhelming his mind grew into a man who used them as his greatest weapon. With his father's death driving him, Matt Murdock took on a new identity, the Daredevil, a blind warrior who fought not for revenge, but for justice.